Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I'm back with some more esoterica. Today we're diving back into the works of Carl Jung. This is Mysterium Conjunctionis. We are reading aloud and discussing as we go along the various points brought to light by the text. It is not the format for everyone, but people do find value in it, so you are more than welcome to tag along as we continue our exploration. Before we begin, however, if you are unfamiliar with me, any of my unconventional beliefs, or if at any point in time I lose you in terminology, there will be several playlists linked in the corner above, in the box down below, along with the original source material, the link for my book where I'm going to teach you most of this stuff anyway, and the links to get in contact with me directly so that you can get a better understanding of who I am and why I say the things that I do. With that being said, we're going to dive in and continue our exploration of the Mysterium Conjunctionis with Chapter 5, Part 4, The Polarity of Atom. There has always existed a widely felt need to think of the first man as having a light nature, hence the frequent comparison with the sun. The alchemists did not insist upon this aspect, so I need say only a few words about it here. Usually, however, in the non-alchemical literature, Adam is a light figure whose splendor even outshines that of the sun. He lost his radiance owing to the fall. Footnote 156. Arrhenius, Pittstake, Biswald, Kohut. Just a bunch of references to other people who have used it. But it is important to note that most of the people who do not have alchemical references, the non-alchemists that are writing, just are dismissible. They don't understand. They are doing something, but that something is reinforcing dogma more than it is spreading truth. And so it is fairly easy to dismiss them out of hand. There is no reason to believe that Adam's light, in a physical sense, was anything. There is, however, the allegory, right? We have my book where this is described. But Adam is the representative of the light. Eve is the representative of the void. Before the beginning, there was God, and God was infinite and without form, the void. And God decided to create and said, I am the light, and became Adam, right? The penetrating light that enters into the void, causing creation to become. We have anthropomorphized that concept into Adam and Eve. It's an allegory. It's not necessarily a good one, but it's not necessarily a bad one either, until you start further anthropomorphizing, right? Well, he was the perfect man, well, original sin and all of that nonsense, right? The fall is nothing. It is a non-existent thing, right? The only true allegory to the fall is men becoming able to decide. The ability to cognate, the ability to foreplan, the ability to be human, even. All of that, fine. But to do it with the spiritual understanding of Christianity is just bad idea, right? That God created a tree that he didn't believe that these people would eat from. That is a problem. That he only gave the command to one of them. That's a problem. That they had no ability to discern that disobeying the command would be evil. That's a problem. There's all kinds of problems in Genesis, and so it should not be taken as a factual reference for anything. It is, however, a fairly good allegory for creation. Before the beginning, there was God, and God created. Right? There's a lot more to that. I have a video that will be linked up here, The Divine and the Trinity Explained, where I go into detail about that if you are interested. There was no fall. There may have been an awakening by which you become aware that you can make decisions, that you understand the this and that you are able to say good and evil. That is possible, but there was no fall that caused that. It is not conceivable that God would not have been able to understand that they would have eaten from the apple. It's just not a thing. Here, we have a hint of his dual nature. On the one hand, shining and perfect, and on the other, dark and earthy. That works as the allegory of light and dark. It does not work as an allegory of a man. Haggadik interpretation derives his name from Adamah, earth. Footnote 157. Grunbaum. Adamah is related to the Hebrew dam, blood. Adam would therefore mean made of red earth. There is a lot of different people that say that we were formed from earth. It is not just the Jewish people. It is not just the Christians. There are people in South America that believe we were formed from clay. There are people in the steppes of Russia that believed we were formed from clay. That is a concept which is understandable, right? The flesh will decay and go away and all of those things. And so it is perfectly understandable why, right? Nobody, however, was there, right? Somebody was there, but nobody was there recording the events that happened as they happened. Nobody was there in the void before God spoke and became. Nobody saw that before the beginning there was God. None of that was a thing. It is all things we have thought about, extrapolated upon, because the fall was there. His dual nature is confirmed by origin. One Adam made out of earth, the other after the image and likeness of God. He is I in a man, invisible, incorporeal, unspotted, and immortal. 158. 158 is from Genesinum. There is no reason to believe that we are created in the likeness of God. That is one of those things that we have anthropomorphized. We have said because we exist and because we are at the top of our food chain, we have made the assumption that God has to look like us. There is no reason to believe that. There is no reason to believe God a masculine or a feminine trait. There is no reason to believe that he is sitting on a throne, that he is in some room somewhere, that he is waiting to judge you. None of that. There is no reason to believe any of that. That is all an anthropomorphication. That is putting upon God qualities that may not exist for him. He is beyond our understanding. He is outside of the creation. None of us are. Not a single one of us is outside of the creation. And so we do not know the image of God or the likeness of God. We do not know that he is an inner man. We do not know that he is invisible, incorporeal, unspotted, or immortal. Those are all things that we assume. They are all things that we create. None of them are true. Similar views are expressed by Philo, 159. Philo distinguishes between the mortal Adam, made of earth, and the Adam created after the image of God, and says of the latter, he that was created after the divine image was an idea, or genus, or imprint, or object of thought, incorporeal, neither male nor female, by nature incorruptible. And that again is just somebody trying to make it fit to their pre-existent belief. It is worth noting that in Colossians 1:15, Christ is this image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature. There are a lot of problems with Colossians as well. Adam's dual nature is reflected in his hermaphroditism. He was created man. He was the first man. He was not created man and woman. Woman was created from him, according to the allegory in Genesis, but it is nowhere stated in Genesis that he was hermaphroditic. That is something that is read into it by people trying to explain their already pre-existent beliefs. Thus, Dorn says that the fiery and perfect Mercurius is the true hermaphroditic Adam. Now that is Adam as an allegory. That is not Adam as a person. I would be willing to stand on that, even though I don't believe, we haven't done the works of Dorn outside of what we have read through here. We will be getting to that. But we do know that Dorn at least had the throne room experience, and that he has relayed good information in this study. I'm going to go out on the limb and say that he was doing the same thing here. He was using Adam as the allegory of the spirit, right? The two being one. The as above and the as below. The light and the dark, the masculine and the feminine. Not a person, but a concept. The same is true with Mercurius. We have gone through sulfur in this particular study, and that was a common theme in there as well. Mercurius, not Mercury, but Mercurius, is the representative of both the masculine and the feminine aspects, being hermaphroditic, but not having genitalia. Right? So, footnote 160. That is just a reference. And it is a reference to Paracelsus, which means that it's not going to be a good one anyway. This idea occurs among the Essenes. These men, says Hippolytus, worship as the beginning of all things, according to their own statement, a man and a study of the son of a man. But this man is masculo-feminine, and is called by them Adamas, and hymns to them are many and various. He quotes as an example, from thee to the Father, through thee to the Mother, the two immortal names, parents of the eons, O citizen of heaven, O man of great name. 161. Alentios. From thee the Father, through thee the Mother, the two immortal names, parents of the eons. O citizen of heaven, O man of great name. That is not masculine and feminine. That is referring to different things. From the Father, the One, through the Mother, the Void, the Spirit even, the two immortal names, positive and negative, masculine and feminine, right? Parents of the eons, the thing that created all things. O citizen of heaven, that's where you really lose me. O man of great name. Well, see this word right here? This word right here is not hermaphrodite of great name. It is, O man of great name. That would be decidedly masculine, not hermaphroditic. Just because it says father and mother in the sentence and not even referencing the same thing, right? If it was from the father and from the mother, okay, fine, maybe hermaphroditic. From the father through the mother. That is childbirth. That is impregnation. That is not hermaphroditism. That's stupid. Adam is masculine and feminine also in the Jewish tradition. So, in Midrash Rabbah 8:1, footnote 162. Ed Freeman and Simon. Okay, that is just a reference. He is an androgyne, or a man and woman grown into one body with two faces. God saw the body in two and made each half a back. Footnote 163. Adam's back is of significance, an Islamic legend says. Then God also made a covenant with the descendants of Adam, for he touched his back, and lo, all men who will be born until the end of the world crept forth from his back, in stature no greater than ants, and raised themselves to his right hand and his left. Then God sent these little souls back into Adam's backbone, where they died and were changed into a single spirit. What? What is the significance of this? This is just a legend, right? So what? God touched his back, right? First off, I don't believe that God touches you. Not in that way, right? There's a spiritual touching through the Holy Spirit, fine, but God does not become corporeal. He didn't literally place his hands upon anyone ever. He didn't walk among men. That is not a thing. And so there's already problems, but God made a covenant with the descendants of Adam is exactly incorrect, right? Adam made a covenant with God. God did not make a covenant with Adam. There was no communication back and forth. There was a committal of a commitment, fine, but that isn't an incorporeal earth outside of Eden at all, right? And then all men who will be born will creep from his back. That is not where it comes from. The juice comes from the front of the berries, not from the back. If the juice is going in the back, there's problems. And it will not be progeny. What? None of this makes any sense, right? This is not contextual at all. It is a legend, but there is not a whole lot of Islamic legend that is going to hold any veracity whatsoever. The entire book is made up, right? You can't even make the argument, like you can make the argument with the Bible that it was just simply lost through time. You cannot make that argument with the Ishmaelites, right? The Islamics. You cannot make the argument that the understanding was just lost through time. It was created in like 1200, right? That's not even old enough to get lost, really. Like, no, no. It's just a legend. And again, there is not any good legends in there. All of their shit is wild. Like, I haven't read the entire Quran, so I can't really state that, right? But what I have read of the Quran and the Hadiths is stupid. Like, you have to be pre-understanding to believe any of that. And by pre-understanding, I mean scientific, philosophical, at all. Right? You cannot have a good concept of good and evil and follow the fucking Quran. It's just not possible. As an allegory, maybe, but not even then. It's not even going to be a good allegory. Alright, we won't be back till 173. Through his androgyny, Adam has affinities with Plato's sphere-shaped original being as well as the Persian Gayamart. Plato's original sphere-shaped original being is the monad, which is closer in conception to the Holy Spirit, which is all things existent at the same time. I'm not familiar with Gayamart. For instance, Glober attributes the sign of the circle to Adam and the square to Eve, and again I will say that that is almost certainly backwards. The circle is usually the sign for golden sun. It is found in the latter sense in the Book of the Cave of Treasures. Then God made Adam, and when the angels saw his glorious appearance, they were moved by the beauty of his sight. For they saw the form of his countenance, while it was enkindled in shining splendor, like to the ball of the sun, and the light of his eyes like to the sun, and the form of his body like to the light of a crystal. An Arabic Hermes text on the creation of Adam relates that when the virgin Eve came to power, the angel Horus arose from the unanimous will of the planets. This Horus took 60 spirits from the planets, 83 from the zodiac, 90 from the highest heaven, 127 from the earth, 360 spirits in all, mixed them together and created out of them Adamanus, the first man, after the form of the highest heaven. The number 360 and the form of heaven both indicate his circular shape. Again, these are legends. That is why he is relaying them. But it is definitely not a direct one-on-one correlation, right? And these numbers are arbitrary. They took the number 360, which has a reason, and they created from it these other numbers, which doesn't, right? 60 spirits from the planets. Why? What is the context for that? Right, and then the context is that the sun is a planet, the moon is a planet. Then you got my very educated mother, just, right, and then Saturn, right? Mars, Venus, Earth, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, right? Plus the sun and the moon make the 7. Well, how do you get 60 from those 7? Do you just randomly assign? Do you just pull it out of nowhere? It's like, these numbers are arbitrary. They 83 from the zodiac, so you get 83 from 12? How the fuck did you do that? You're just making shit up to make it fit. That's all. That's what's happening here. Aside, however, from his androgyny, there is a fundamental polarity in Adam, which is based on the contradiction between his physical and spiritual nature. Right. He can't be androgynous and polarized. Right. Androgyny indicates that there is a neutrality. Polarity means that it is either positive or negative. Right. That's not androgyny. This was felt very early and is expressed in the view of Rabbi Jeremiah ben Eleazar that Adam must have had 2 faces, in accordance with his interpretation of Psalm 139:5. Thou hast beset me behind and before. That's not Adam. And in the Islamic view, that Adam's soul was created thousands of years before his body, and then refused to enter the figure made of clay, so that God had to put it in by force. Well, that is definitely an interpretation, but once again, I will point out that there is not a whole lot contained in the Islamic view that contains any truth at all. According to a rabbinic view, Adam even had a tail. His condition at first was altogether most inauspicious. As he lay still inanimate on the ground, he was of a greenish hue, with thousands of impure spirits fluttering around who all wanted to get into him. But God shooed them away until only one remained, Lilith, the mistress of spirits, who succeeded in so attaching herself to Adam's body that she became pregnant by him. Only when Eve appeared did she fly away again. What the absolute fuck is going on here? Right? We have not done a full study of the Kabbalah. I am fairly positive that that will not happen because of shit like this. This is wild, right? This is completely contradictory to the source material altogether, which is not uncommon in the Kabbalah, which is why we won't really be dealing with it at all. The demonic Lilith seems to be a certain aspect of Adam, for the legend says she was created with him from the same earth. You don't get to have it all of the ways, right? As he lay, still inanimate on the ground, with thousands of impure spirits who wanted to get into him, right? And God shooed them away until only one remained. So he was perfectly fine with the one remaining. There's that, right? Obviously, God didn't have a problem with Lilith if he shooed away every other one and she stayed. If he would have had a problem, he would have shooed her away too. All right, we've got a problem already. Next, she is the mistress of spirits. Really? Well, that's a hell of an appellation. You just shoot off all of these thousands of spirits and you kept the one because it's the mistress. Okay, fine. Right? Who succeeded in attaching herself to Adam's body, that she became pregnant by him. Well, that is one type of an attachment, I guess. But only when Eve appeared did she fly away again, because, you know, God, he obviously needed a helpmeet if he was already having sex. All right, that was literally the only thing that Eve could have done for Adam. All he had to do was walk around and pick fruit off of trees and eat it. The only thing that he needed help with would be sexual gratification. He was jealous of all the animals having a companion. It wasn't because they were holding discourse. Right? And so, if he is already having sexual relations with a demon, which is wild, right, at the direction of God, because God allowed it to happen, then why did he need Eve at all? What was she doing there? It had been, Lilith got pregnant as a spirit. There's a lot wrong in this. We are not going to be dealing with the Kabbalah. 171. Did we do that? Okay, we're back at 173. It throws a bad light on Adam's nature when we are told that countless demons and spooks arose from his nocturnal emissions. See what I mean? Right? This is directly related to sexual relations. That's what nocturnal emissions are. He wasn't pissing the bed. Ec nocturno similis fluxo. Wet dreams. And so Eve was created to help him deal with wet dreams. How was he having wet dreams? He had no experience of sex. There was no women for which to desire sex. How was he having wet dreams? Was he created with the ability to have wet dreams? Well, that implies something. The more we study, the more problems we find. This happened during the 130 years which he had to spend apart from Eve, banished from the heavenly court under the anathema of excommunication. What? What? Where? What? 130 years. Once again, arbitrary numbers just pulled completely out of nowheres, right? 130 years has no biblical reference. 40 would have been more appropriate. 130 years. Like, that's not even a multiple of 40. That's not a multiple of 7. Where the fuck did you get 130 years? And Adam was banished apart from Eve? Where's the reference for that? In the Kabbalah? Fine. Once again, dismissal. In Gnosticism, the original man, Adamus, who is nothing but a paraphrase of Adam. We'll get back to that. Let's check out the footnote, 173. According to the teaching of the Barbellites, the autogenes, who was sent forth by Anoia and the Logos, created the perfect and true man who was called Adamus. The Logos was there. Okay. So, once again, I will point out, saying Gnosticism is like saying Christianity. In theory, it works, but in actual application, no. Right? You can't just use Christian beliefs. There's a wide variety of them. There is Catholicism, there is Baptist, there is Pentecostal. There's a wide variety between those three. And outside of those three, there are sub-designations of all kinds. Right? There is Baptist, there is Episcopalian, there is Anglican. There is Mormon, there is Jehovah's Witnesses, there is the Amish. None of those comport with the other ones in the slightest way. They are many times completely contradictory to each other. Intrinsic problem with the foundational understanding of Christianity. This is the same problem with Gnosticism. Gnosticism encompassed thousands of years, thousands of people across thousands of miles, widely separated by distance, time, and belief. Some of them were sex cults, having sex unrestrictedly with anything that moved. Others of them were sex denial cults, never having sex at all. That is completely antithetical to each other, and yet they are labeled as one, as Gnostic. Gnostic simply means a different understanding of the one. It is the wisdom of the creation outside of Judaism or Christianity. That's what it really means. It is a knowledge, that is gnosis, of the divine on a different understanding than these two particular ones. And so, to say that in Gnosticism, the original man, fine, in this one sect, the Barbellites, right? Not even in the rest of them, the Valentinians, the Basilidians, the various other ones, right? Just in this one group. And you're logging them all together because, Christ. Stupid. Who is nothing but a paraphrase of Adam, was equated with the phallic Hermes and with Corybus, the pederastic seducer of Dionysus. Footnote 174. That is a reference to a different book, as well as with the phallic Kabiri. 175 is another reference to another book. In the Pistis Sophia, we meet a Sabaoth Adamus, the ruler of the eons, who fights against the light of Pistis Sophia. Pistis Sophia, for Adam as the head of the aeon, and we'll be back at 179. Alright. Against the light of the Pistis Sophia, and is thus wholly on the side of evil. Pistis Sophia, being the light in this context, is the coming of knowledge and wisdom. What did they get from the tree that caused them to be expelled? Wisdom. And so, standing on the side of the light would be the standing on the side of evil, which is exactly opposite of this. Then, I don't believe that, right? But according to the book, According to the teachings of the Bogomils, Adam was created by Satan, God's first son and the fallen angel, out of mud. But Satan was unable to bring him to life, so God did it for him. Footnote 177. We're back at 179. Adam's interconnection with Satan is likewise suggested in rabbinic tradition, where Adam will one day sit on Satan's throne. As the first man, Adam is the Homo Maximus, the anthropos from whom the macrocosm arose, or who is the macrocosm. He is not only the prima materia, but a universal soul, which is also called the soul of all men. That is not the physical incarnation of Adam. That is the anthropomorphication of God into Adam. God is the soul of all souls. God is the universal soul. God is the prima materia, right? But he is not a human. Never has been a human in full, right? We are all representatives of, but none of us are the representative of. And so this is not true at all. According to the Manichaeans, he is the mystery of the worlds. And again, that is God, not Adam. That only works as Adam as the anthropomorphication of God. The conception of the anthropos first penetrated into alchemy through Zosimos, for whom Adam was a dual figure, the fleshly man and the man of light. 181. Oh, we missed a lot. All right, 179 was up there, but for a comprehensive survey of Adam material, see Mermelstein. Also apt to wizard. While Adam lay there, a lifeless body, God showed him all righteous who would one day issue from him. These have their origins in separate parts of Adam's body, one from his head, the other from his hair, and others from his forehead, eyes, nose, mouth, ear, and jawbone, all above the neck. Proof of this can be found in Job 38, where, as interpreted by the Midrash, God says to Job, "Tell me how thou art made, and what part of Adam's body thou comest. If thou canst tell me this, then thou mayest contend with me." The first Adam was as great as the world from one end to the other. Therefore the angels would have cried, "Holy," before him. But God made him small by taking away pieces of his limbs, which then lay about Adam. I'm going to stop on this footnote. This is just stupid. Right? None of this is source material for the primary source, which is Genesis. All of this is just extrapolations created from, and there's no point. I have discussed the significance of the anthropos idea at such length in psychology and alchemy that no further documentation is needed here. I shall therefore confine myself to material that is of historical interest in following the thought process of the alchemist. Already in Zosimos, let's see what the next reference is going to be, 186. Three sources can be distinguished: Jewish, Christian, and pagan. Pagan is another one of those very big terms. Pagan, much like Gnosticism, is just an understanding outside of Christianity or Judaism. And so to say that there are only three sources is wild, right? There is Hinduism, there is Buddhism, there is Zoroastrianism, there is the Egyptian systems of beliefs, right? All of those are going to be existent inside of that. I know that without reading that because they all predate that. And so there will be something contained in them of them. In later alchemy, the pagan synchronistic element naturally fades into the background to leave room for the predominance of the Christian element. And again, I will point out that is because Christianity spread by the sword. If you did not believe, you got to die. In the 16th century, the Jewish element becomes noticeable again under the influence of the Kabbalah, which had been made accessible to a wider public by Johann Reuchlin and Pico della Mirandola. Somewhat later, the humanists then made their contribution from the Hebrew and Aramaic sources, and especially from the Zohar. In the 18th century, an allegedly Jewish treatise appeared, Abraham Eleazar's Uraltes Chemicus Werk, making copious use of the Hebraic terminology and claiming to be the mysterious Rinden book of Adam, Abraham the Jew, which, it was said, had revealed the art of gold making to Nicholas Flamel. Footnote 186. See the preface to the book. The manuscript is said to have been in the possession of Cardinal Richelieu. The story goes that Flamel bought the treatise, which was written on sheets of bark, for 2 florins from an unknown person. It is a late forgery from the beginning of the 18th century. The first edition appeared in 1735. In this treatise, there is the following passage. For Noah must wash me in the deepest sea with pain and toil, that my blackness may depart. I must lie here in the deserts among many serpents, and there is none to pity me. I must be fixed to this black cross, and must be cleansed therefrom with wretchedness and vinegar. And that's not because they had a story later, 187. This phrase also occurs in Meyer. There is in our chemistry a certain noble substance which moves from lord to lord, in the beginning whereof is wretchedness with vinegar, but in the end joy with gladness. I don't know that that is a direct understanding, right? It mentions vinegar, but I don't think that's the same. Must be cleansed therefrom with wretchedness and vinegar, and made white, that the inwards of my head may be like the sun, or merits. 188. Eleazar states that merits signifies earth, Hebrew, eretz. And my heart may shine like a carbuncle, and the old Adam come forth again from me. O Adam Kadmon, how beautiful art thou, and adorned with the rikmah of the King of the world. Footnote 189. The Hebrew rikmah is a many-colored garment. I wonder what that could possibly reference, right? There is an understanding where the carbuncles stand for each one of these little glowing balls. Right? They do have color, a many-colored garment, indeed. Like Kedar, footnote 190, the men of Kedar lived in black tents. That is a bold choice for the desert. I am black henceforth. Like, how long? Oh, come, my meshek. 191. Mixed drink, spiced wine. Really? That's interesting. And disrobe me, that mine and her beauty may be revealed. No, Jesus is referred to as the meshek. The phraseology is eluding me. The Meshach. I cannot remember, but it definitely, it is in reference to Messiah, right? And so for this to be in reference to a drink, that is definitely interesting. Oh, that the serpent roused up Eve, to which I must testify with my black color that clings to me, and that is mine, that is become mine by the curse of this persuasion, and therefore am I unworthy of all my brothers. O Sulamith afflicted within and without, the watchmen of the great city will find thee and wound thee, strip thee of thy garments and smite thee and take away thy veil. Yet shall I be blessed again when I am delivered from the poison brought upon me by the curse, and mine inmost seed and first birth comes forth, for its father is the sun and its mother is the moon. Yea, I know else of no other bridegroom who should love me because I am so black. Do thou tear down the heavens and melt my mountains, for thou didst crumble the mighty kingdoms of Canaan like dust, and crush them with the brazen serpent of Joshua. Another very interesting reference. And offer them up to Algier, the fire, that she who is encompassed by many mountains may be freed. Footnote 192. Ultras Chemicus work. At best, this is an allegory for spiritual ascension, right? The blackness would be the self-reflection, the beginning and the void. At best, right? I don't like the allegory, but you can read into that the things that I talk about, right? Delivering from the poison would be the balancing, smiting away, taking away the veil, blasting again. Like, all of this can work. Sun and moon definitely works. Uh, Tearing down the heavens even, right? Now, this Joshua and the serpent, there was definitely some serpent worship going on around the time of Joshua. Offering them up to Algier is an interesting reference as well. But that she who is encompassed by many mountains may be freed is probably an allusion to Jerusalem, which was not freed by Joshua. Right? Israel did not have control of Jerusalem until David, and then they had it for David, Solomon, and I'm losing the name of the son of Solomon who lost the kingdom of Israel, but that was the entire extent of the rule of the Israelis in Jerusalem. It is evident that the speaker is the feminine personification of the prima materia in the Negredo state. I just said that, right? The void. Psychologically, this dark figure is the unconscious anima, that is his understanding. In this condition, she corresponds to the nefesh of the Kabbalists. Footnote 193. The psyche, which by them is called nefesh, is the vital spirit. Not insofar as it is the holy corporeal, but as that which is inborn and primitive and seminal, which later writers call the archeus. This corresponds to the vegetative or plastic soul of the philosophers, and the affective or concussable soul of the Platonist. I'm sorry about the hiccups, y'all. Nefesh is a kind of blood soul, hence the prohibition against shedding blood. There was no prohibition against shedding blood. There was absolutely nothing that the Israelites did that did not require shedding blood first. She is the desire, for as Nor von Rosenroth trenchantly remarks, the mother is nothing but the inclination of the father for the lower. That is partly true, right? God created from the void by penetrating into the void. The mother was the absence of all things, and the father's will was the inclination for the lower. Footnote 193a is just an asterisk. The blackness comes from Eve's sin. That is not true. Sulamith, the Shulamite, footnote 194, the Hebrew word used in Song of Songs is Shulamith, or Shulamamite, translated in most versions of the Bible as the Shulamite, the girl from Shulam, or ancient Shunem. See the introduction to the Old Testament. It's also used as a personal name by modern Jews. And Eve, Hawa, earth, are contaminated into a single figure who contains in herself the first Adam. Like the mother, her child, and at the same time awaits the second Adam. In example, Adam before the fall, the perfect original man, as her lover and bridegroom. She hopes to be freed by him from her blackness. Here again, we encounter the mysticism of the Song of Songs as in the Aurora Consurgence. 1. Jewish gnosis, Kabbalah, combines with Christian mysticism. Sponsus and Sponsa are called on the one hand Tifereth and Malkuth, and on the other Christ and the Church. Footnote 195. Adam is called by the Kabbalist Adam Kadmon to distinguish him from Adam the first man. Because of all things that came forth from God, he occupies the first place as the first man among the species of men. Nothing can be more fitly be signified thereby than the soul of the Messiah, of which Paul speaks in 1 Corinthians. Yeah, okay. The mysticism of the Song of Songs, 196, the love of the king for the queen, is the love of God for Zion, or for that power which is also called Shalom, peace or fulfillment, for Shulamith, who is praised in the Song of Songs. We'll be back at 198. The mysticism of the Song of Songs appeared in Jewish Gnostic circles during the 3rd and 4th centuries, as is proved by the fragments of a treatise called Shur Koma, the measure of the body. It concerns a mysticism only superficially Judicized by references to the description of the beloved in the Song of Songs. The figure of Tifereth belongs to the Sephiroth system, which is conceived to be a tree. Tifereth occupies the middle position. Adam Kadmon is either the whole tree or is thought of as a mediator between the supreme authority. On Soph, or Sephiroth. 198. 198 says, Kabbalah Dinunatata. Concerning Adam Kadmon, the Kabbalistic writings are not altogether clear. Sometimes he is conceived as the Sephiroth in their entirety, sometimes as a first emanation existing before the Sephiroth and superior to them, through which God was made manifest and revealed himself to the whole of creation as a kind of prototype, macrocosm. In the latter event, it looks as though Adam Kadmon were a first revelation interposed between God and the world, a second God, so to speak, or the divine Logos. That is a misunderstanding of the Logos. For a better understanding, see the divine and the Trinity explained. This view agrees with that of the Kabbalah Dinunatata, which was influenced by Isaac Luria. Here, Adam Kadmon is a mediator between On Soph and Sephiroth. Dr. S. Hurwitz refers me to the Zohar. As soon as man was created, everything was created, the upper and the lower worlds, for everything is contained in man. According to this view, Adam Kadmon is the Homo Maximus, who is himself the world. That is a bad analogy, right? There is correlations between the as above and the as below, but you are not a direct correlation to the as above. Man and his heavenly prototype are twins. Adam Kadmon is the highest man of the divine chariot, Merkaba, the highest crown, Kether, the anima generalis. Isaac Luria says that he contains in himself the 10 Sephiroth. They went forth from him in 10 concentric circles, and these are his nefesh, souls. Cf. Supra, the diagram of the Ophites in origin. I believe that 10 is going to be a lesser understanding. The black Shulamite in our text corresponds to Malkuth as a widow, who awaits union with Tifereth and hence the restoration of the original wholeness. Accordingly, Adam Kadmon here takes the place of Tifereth. He is mentioned in Philo and in the Midrashic tradition. From the latter source comes the distinction between the heavenly and earthly Adam in 1 Corinthians. The first man was of the earth, earthy. The second man is from heaven, heavenly. And verse 45, the first man, Adam, became a living soul. The last Adam became a life-giving spirit. Thus, the original hylixic man is contrasted with the later pneumatic man. The Tractus de Revolutionibus Animarum of Nor von Rosenroth, Part 1, Chapter 110, contains a passage which is of importance for the psychological interpretation of Adam. Ezekiel 34:31 says, Ye are Adam. Footnote 199. Apparently, Ezekiel 34:31 apparently says nothing of the kind. What it does say, however, is, And ye, my flock, the flock of my pasture, are men. Man equals Adam. Adam, here, is a collective concept. We did read through Ezekiel. I am not sure about the reference. Fall back, I probably have a better understanding than either. This means you are rightly called by the name of Adam. The meaning is, if the text would be understood literally, it could rightly be objected that all peoples of the world, or the Gentiles, are men after the same manner as the Israelites, that is, of upright stature. Wherefore it would have to be said, Ye are men, but in truth, the meaning is this, out of your souls was composed the microcosm of Adam. Footnote 200, the parentheses are Noah van Rosenroth. Ye are Adam, he says, as it were, that all the souls of the Israelites were in truth nothing but the first created Adam, and you were his sparks and his limbs. Footnote 201, Kabbalah Dinunatata. We'll be back at 204. I will point out that one of the lenses that we took off in the Bible study was that it was a chosen people. I find it a little bit ridiculous, right? These people wrote this book about themselves and they were the star, right? Okay, fine. I find it a little bit ridiculous that everybody else just takes that. I did at one point, and then I was like, wait, God created every person on the planet. Why does this particular group have particular significance? It is only because they said so. God didn't write the Bible. A man did. Here, Adam appears on the one hand as the body of the people of Israel, and on the other as its general soul. This conception can be taken as a projection of the interior Adam. The Homo Maximus appears as a totality, as the self of the people. As the inner man, however, he is the totality of the individual, the synthesis of all parts of the psyche, and therefore the conscious and the unconscious. Verse 20 says, "And therefore our masters have said, the Son of David shall not come until all the souls that were in the body of the first created have fully gone out." The going out of the souls from the primordial man can be understood as the projection of a psychic integration process. The saving wholeness of the inner man, an example, the Messiah, cannot come about until all parts of the psyche have been made conscious. There is a book for that. This may be sufficient to explain why it takes so long for the second Adam to appear. The same treatise says, "From on Soph, from the most general one who was produced the universe, which is Adam Kadmon, who is one and many, and of whom and in whom are all things." The differences of genera are denoted by concentric circles, which proceeded from him or are contained in him. He is thus something like a schema of the psychic structure, in which the specific differences, those characterizing species, are denoted by a straight line. Footnote 204. The so-called numerical differences are concerned with the opposites. The text says, "The numerical differences refer to the balance-like arrangement in which there is a turning, in which the two principles are related, in example, turned, face to face, and two or more things of the same perfection or species are distinguished only as male and female. And these numerical differences, in example, relationships, are denoted by such expressions as facing, turning the back. I describe in this book quite extensively that you need to balance these 7 virtues and these 7 vices, including, there is an 8th one, right? There is the self and God, right? The separation, therefore, you are to bring into balance that as well. That is signified by the white and the black. That is a very recent revelation to me. But there is a balancing between the chakras that occurs that can be symbolized by numerical differences. There is the polarization of opposites, right? This one on the bottom represents love and wrath. Love is giving away affection. Wrath is not having it returned. There is a balance of kindness that is the meet point between those. Love represents the light. Wrath represents the dark. You meet the blending of those two into perfect harmony. That is what this is supposed to be talking about. An example, in a concentric system by the radius. Thus, in Adam Kadmon are represented all the orders of things, both genera and species and individuals. Footnote 205. That is all Latin. Among the pagan sources, we must distinguish an Egyptian one concerned with the very ancient tradition of the god-man Osiris and the theology of kingship, a Persian one derived from Gayamart, and an Indian one derived from Purusha. Footnote 206. For the Egyptian source, see the account in Bousset, and Wrights and Sign in Schrader. For the Indian, see Dusin. And for its relation with the belief of the Messiah, see Abig. The Christian source for alchemical ideas is the aforementioned Pauline doctrine of the first and second Adam. I will point out that basing anything upon Pauline doctrine is probably going to lead you astray. that will bring us to the end of section 4. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a series of somewhat difficult topics. I understand. I hold some unconventional beliefs, and I do have a tendency to step on toes when I relay those. It is not intentional, but it is not something that I apologize for. Again, I feel like I have been fairly clear, right? I don't expect to have a whole lot to add to these studies. Beyond what we have already added, I will point out things as we go along, but I am not expecting to get a whole lot of new information. I do expect to get a good bit of confirmation for my current theories as we get into farther parts of this book. And so far, that has been fairly good, right? We've had some good references and we've had some bad references, and the ability to discern between them is kind of why we're here. So if you like what I'm doing over here, let me know down below. Give me a like, a share, a follow. Throw me a comment. Whether you agree or disagree with anything that was stated, put it in the box down below, and if it remains respectful, it gets to remain up. If you really like what I'm doing over here, hit me with that super thanks. Consider joining for a membership, picking up a copy of my book where I explain all of this stuff, or contacting me directly and I'll explain it to you directly. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete, just the way that you are. And this has been Pittstake. Peace.